Hello, everybody. Welcome back, and welcome back to Wizard Week. We are continuing through the Harry Potter films. Today, we're talking about Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Now, I've mentioned in my other videos, the first four books are the only books that I read. The first four movies I watched as they came out. Then after that, I kind of fell off. I can't remember when or why I watched the fifth one, but I definitely have more when I rewatched it now. There were definitely things from it that I remembered. Characters like Luna Lovegood and Umbridge and different events like all the rules being hung up on the wall and the Room of Requirement. I have memories of those things, whereas 6, 7, and 8, I couldn't tell you anything that happens in 6, 7, and 8 other than that Snape kills Dumbledore, and that I don't even remember. It's just I know it because that was what everyone was talking about at the time. So those ones I have almost no memory of, whereas 5, there's quite a bit that I did remember. So I'm not sure when that came in. I believe now, after watching this, that 6 was the one that I randomly watched with my brother, and 7 and 8 were the two that I watched back to back, very late one random night. But I can't remember where 5 came into the picture. Probably in college, because I had some friends in college that were very into the Potter films, and so it was probably sometime in there, but who knows. But before I get into my notes, not many for this one, but before I get into those, it could very well be that just the history and the way that I've experienced these movies has shaped how I view them, but it does seem to me like, to an extent, the fourth movie, but really this fifth movie really changes what these movies are about and how the movies work. And I'm sure other people have talked about this before, right? It's hard to think that there's anything about the Harry Potter movies that haven't been said already. But I'm not plugged into Harry Potter talk, so these aren't things that I've heard talked about. These are just things that I'm thinking of, and I'm just sharing those thoughts with you. So I'm not claiming that these are original thoughts, just that they're my thoughts. So I feel like the first 3 movies really are mostly about world building. The characters are there and we care about them, but it's not really about the characters. It's about the world. It's about bringing us into this fantasy world, letting us see what it's like. The fourth movie really is about the rise of Voldemort coming back into being and gaining power again. It's disguised as being about the Triwizard Tournament, but as we find out at the end of that movie, the whole thing was a setup to get Voldemort back. This fifth movie really seems like now it's about the characters, and by character, I mean the character of the characters. It's about Ron and Harry and Hermione being strong, powerful leaders of this movement. The fourth one expanded the world a little bit more in terms of bringing in new characters, the different schools, characters like Neville and Ginny getting a little bit more to do, characters like Cho being introduced, and that continues here in the fifth movie, Order of the Phoenix, where Cho and Ginny and Longbottom again have their roles expanded. Seamus, continues to grow as a character, and then we've got new characters like Luna Lovegood. So it's really a growing of the world around our main characters, more so than just the world of magic that was the focus in the first 3 films. And then, of course, the idea of good versus evil, Dumbledore's army versus Voldemort, and all that stuff. So, it's a different vibe. It's a different type of movie, but I think it works as the characters and the actors age up. It makes sense that the stories have a little bit more serious of a focus, and I guess at the time the fan base was growing up too, so it made sense that they could handle more serious storytelling. So I'm finding that pretty enjoyable, that it's not just 8 of basically the same movie in a row. They serve different functions in terms of the overall narrative. They're not all trying to do the same thing, and so not just because of the plot but because of the vibe, the series is progressing in a way that makes me want to carry on and continue it. So, I just found that interesting. I wanted to talk about that for a bit. On to my notes. My first note is no truth serum in the trial or about Voldemort. So we've seen in earlier movies, truth serum is a thing that works, and according to Snape, even Voldemort can't beat it. It's like we have, polygraph tests in the real world, but they're fallible and people can beat them. So they're not approved for use in courts. But in the magic world, you would think that they can't be beaten. So why is there no truth serum in the trial of Harry Potter or when determining whether or not he's lying about Voldemort? Bring out the truth serum. Let's go. Let's get it done. This is, again, one of the issues with having magical elements in your movies, that you bring in one thing for one plot point, but you have to remember for all your other plot points that that's a thing that exists. Why didn't... is it Lucian or Lucius? I think it's Lucius. Why didn't he just kidnap Harry Potter, feed him the stuff, and then have him tell him what he wanted to know? Right? It's just one of those things where once it's introduced, it's very easy to, from a storytelling perspective, to forget that it exists. But if you remember while you're watching it, it's like, why don't they have that here? My next note is just that Umbridge is too real. Now, I know Umbridge has been talked to death, and again, I'm sure there's nothing I could say about her that hasn't already been said about her. But all I'll say is that type of person, the type of person that absolutely refuses to listen to any opinion other than her own, that type of person that puts on this happy face but is willing to do horrible and awful things as long as she can justify it to herself, that type of person that has what some people would call toxic positivity, of ignoring and dismissing any kind of negative talk and refusing to admit that all is not as it should be. That type of character, that type of person is a very real type of person. And unfortunately, I've had to deal with a few of those throughout my life and in my career. So it's very satisfying to see her get her comeuppance in this movie. But, I mean, there are characters like Voldemort that are evil, and there are characters like Wormtail who are conniving, and those are great villains for movies. But characters like Umbridge, those I think strike a different type of chord with people, because I think a lot of people know people like that in real life, and you have to deal with them. And unfortunately, in real life, we can't just walk them into a trap of centaurs and giants. So I think that's all I'm going to say about that. And I'm going to move on. My next note is Hidden House. So again, along with what I was saying in my last video about the tents being bigger on the inside and why aren't more things like that, Sirius Black's house is totally hidden. Why isn't all magic stuff like that? Why isn't Hogwarts hidden? Right? Because again, and nobody has commented any answers on any of my videos at the time of this recording, but my question in a previous video was, can anyone get to Hogwarts, or do you have to travel there by some magical means? But I don't understand how that would work, so that would then imply that any muggle, if they know where to go, can go find Hogwarts. So it's like, why not make it hidden like the Sirius Black's house? But then, it's like, how does that work? Because, the people in the building that's moving seem oblivious to it, but the water in the fish tank is shaking. So, again, sometimes I can't remember how it was described in the book. I don't know, But in the movie, sometimes people put things in movies because it looks cool, even if the logic behind it doesn't actually make sense. My next note, I feel like every movie I've got a new question about the paintings. So is it Finch, Mr. Finch, the caretaker? At one point he's taking the paintings down and he kind of turns it like this, and all the characters are in the painting, and they fall that way. And I'm like, is there no gravity within the world of the painting? Because they should still be like pulled down, right? But they're being affected by gravity from the perspective of the person viewing the painting, not from the perspective of the person inside the painting. So like if they turn the painting upside down, would they... I need a movie about the paintings. Oh, I just want to see all this stuff explained and played with and toyed with, and it's so interesting to me. My next note is just no robes. There's not no robes in this. There are, plenty of scenes with robes in it, but again, it seems like they're getting further and further away from that, and just more scenes in regular clothing, which, like, I don't know why it bothers me so much. Like, I talked about how it messes with the timelessness of the movies, but, like, it's not like I hate all movies that are not timeless, but especially in this movie, because you have Umbridge using her magic to, like, enforce dress code and the new rules saying that, the dress code is to be enforced, but then you have so many scenes of so many characters not in it. I don't know. I like the robes. I like the school uniform look. I don't know. I don't know why it bothers me so much. And then, once again, speaking of notes, I have the returning idea, the returning concept every movie. Beatrix calls Harry a half-blood. Or maybe she called his mother a half-blood. I don't know, but we have more of this back and forth about whether or not Lily was a witch. So I actually looked it up. I wasn't planning on looking anything up because I know I could look up the answers to all of my questions, but I want people who know it and care about it and who really have a deep understanding of it to comment, because I like seeing people talk about things they're passionate about more so than I like just looking stuff up on Wikipedia. But I could not handle this anymore, and I went and looked it up. And Lily was a Muggle born, but she herself was a witch. So, now I'm like wondering the exact wordings of everything that was said in the other movies. Perhaps Tom Riddle and Voldemort, one and the same person, I know, but the different characters in the movies, perhaps they weren't calling Harry a mudblood, they were calling Lily a mudblood, and I misunderstood it. But it's been very confusing to me. So yeah, I don't have a definitive answer for why the things that were said, but at least now I know definitively Harry's mother was a witch, but her parents were not magically inclined. And for some reason, the movies are very unclear about that. I think that's all I have to say about this. My videos for each movie have been getting longer and longer, and I was hoping that trend wouldn't continue. So it seems like this one is going to be quite a bit shorter than my previous one, which is fine by me. So I think that's going to do it for the Order of the Phoenix. If you have any answers to any of my questions, please put them below. If you have any other thoughts, please put them below. But that's all that I have to say about Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good day.